Good morning. It's good to see you all. And you out there in Zoom land as well, though it may not be morning for you. I'm going to tell the story. Most of you have heard this. I think many of you have anyway. But maybe we can pull some new things out of it. Jing Ching, Zen master, said to one of his students, "What is that sound outside?" And the student said, "That's the sound of raindrops." And Ching said, human beings are inverted. They lose themselves and chase after things. The student said, "What about you?" And Ching said, "I almost don't lose myself." And the student said, "What is the meaning of I almost don't lose myself?" And Ching said, "To express oneself still should be easy, but to say the whole thing has to be difficult." Okay. Well, I don't look at this. Haven't come back to this pond for a while, so. But Ching says, "What is that sound outside?" In one of the translations we have, he says, "What is that sound outside the gate?" What is that sound outside? And the student should be a little wary of this, particularly in using that term outside. We have it from Sensang, who wrote the Xin Xing Ming, which we're studying now on Tuesday nights. And Sensang, his enlightenment statement to his teacher was no inside, no outside, no in between. No inside, no outside, no in between. Here we have Jing Ching. He asks his student, "What is that sound outside?" As I mentioned in one of the translations, he says, "What is that sound outside the gates or the gate?" And often this term, the gate, can be taken as, well, the gate of our senses. We let in many things through the gates of our senses. But here he's asking about, well, what is out there? What's outside? But already in just saying outside, we're kind of in trouble here. Because as we've been looking now in the Monday night class, the non-difference between relative and absolute, the non-difference of relative and absolute. No difference here. And inside, outside, no in between, says Sensang. No inside, no outside. So what is this sound outside, he's asking? What is this that's going on out there? Asking about this. And do we know? Seems to be always going on, doesn't it? If I'm here, for each of us, if I'm here, well, then there seems to be something going on outside of me. And this is what Ching is asking about. What is that? In this case, that sound. And But it could be anything at all, of course. Something that appears to be out there in the world, separate, apart from me. It seems like a just straightforward, simple question. And the student comes back that way. Well, that's the sound of raindrops. And Ching says, human beings, in one of the translations, what is it? Ordinary people lose themselves. Human beings lose themselves and chase after things. Human beings are inverted. Yeah, I left that out, sorry. Human beings are upside down. They lose themselves and chase after things. And what is he drawing our attention to? Human beings, we answer an ordinary question like, what does that sound? It's the sound of rain. Sound of raindrops. And the teacher comes back with, human beings are upside down. They lose themselves and chase after things. Chase after things out there. Out beyond the gates of the senses. So this is the territory that we wandered into here with Jing. Human beings are inverted, upside down, inside out. We have it from Sensang, there is no inside, no outside, no in between. So what's going on here? What is this outside? And then does that imply an inside? Well, in here, yeah, in what? Inside me, you might think. So no inside, no outside, no in between. Human beings lose themselves and are confused. Well, what about you? Says the student to the teacher. What about you? And the teacher says, I almost don't lose myself. I almost don't lose myself. You might have to look at that carefully. We might think that in losing ourselves, maybe we've entered into a kind of, well, we just have no sense of self. We're out there exploring the world of this and that, all these wonderful and exciting things, sometimes terrifying things or happy things. It could be any number of things and events are occurring. And we're exploring all of this. But he says human beings lose themselves. Yeah, we can lose ourselves in ecstasy or fear or any number of things, exploring all of this. But if we think that this is what this koan is pointing to, this isn't. You won't get into the depth of what's being pointed out here. When he says human beings lose themselves, well, what is it that we lose? We lose actually the true self. But what is that exactly? What is self? What is other? And is there a separation there? There's me here inside, everything else out there. You're outside as far as I'm concerned. For each one of us, we can look at the world this way. There's all that out there. So what does it mean to lose ourselves? Well, what Ching is pointing out is that in taking this to, well, this thing out there, the sound of raindrops or whatever it might be, make that real. The student answers, yeah, that's the sound of raindrops out there. And now, of course, the student is here saying this. This is the understanding. I have this understanding. It's based on what I can hear. And there's something out there, and I'm here listening to all this. But Ching is saying, this is to lose yourself. That's not, but we'll look at it in a way where it seems like he's confirming the self and asking about that out there. And then we answer very ordinary, well, I am hearing that it is that sound. It's a sound of raindrops. I am seeing this, or I am thinking this, or I am feeling this. And then we express that. As Ching says at near the end, it's easy. Yeah, it's easy. It should be easy to express yourself. And we can do that quite easily. Sometimes we might have difficulty finding the words for what I feel right now. Yeah, that can go on. But still, it's rather easy. But he's asking about, what is that sound outside the gates? What is that sound outside? As if there were an outside. And ordinary beings, as one of the translations says, ordinary people will take it that way, as if well, that's how we take it. There's an outside. Encounter that, yeah, and I'm here. And there's an outside. We'll just take it in this way. We'll even understand that the Zen master is teaching in this way, with this ordinary kind of language, pointing in a very ordinary way, based on the ordinary assumptions that we all have about me here, taking in a world out there, and all the various things. And of course, in the process of all of this, we want to wake up. At least those of us who come to a place like this, perhaps, we might first take up this practice, this meditation, to, I don't know, calm ourselves down, lower our blood pressure, become more relaxed or, at ease. But then we might hear about this thing, enlightenment. And what is that? And, oh, that sounds pretty good. Yes, I want to be enlightened. It's ordinary kind of thinking here, ordinary understanding. And as long as we continue in that way, well, we won't understand awakening, even though this is what you're experiencing all the time, is the direct realization of reality. So what is that thing outside he's asking about? What is that? The student doesn't question outside. Yeah, there's things out there. In this case, yes, it's the sound of raindrops, he says, without even really giving it much thought. And of course, we all, yeah, if we were in that situation, we'd probably nod, yeah, that's right, it's raining out there. That all seems to make sense. But Ching is trying to point to the subtle reality that's taking place there. So when he says that people lose themselves and chase after things out there, doesn't point out at that point, but that's what's creating you here, chasing after that out there, because that's the other part of the picture that he doesn't mention, but it's there. You can't be chasing something out there if there wasn't a sense of me here, I don't know, wanting that thing out there, or want to get rid of it, or relating to it in some way or another. So that's just all in this picture. But he's saying this is to lose yourself. Yeah, people lose themselves and chase after outer things, we sometimes talk about outer entanglements, because the mind will very quickly get entangled in any number of things here. So what is this getting at? People lose themselves, and so the student says, well, what about you? And then Ching says, I almost don't lose myself. I almost don't lose myself. This thing about enlightenment that maybe we've been curious about or interested in or trying to achieve or acquire or something like this, any of that kind of, any thinking that you want to do at all about that will be confused. So you don't need to do anything like that. You don't need to think about it. If you're interested in this matter of waking up, everything's it's already happening. It's already taking place. It isn't a matter for you to figure something out here. That just creates entanglements. Creates you here trying to figure something else out there, getting it right. And now if the focus is on enlightenment, how can I get that? And we say, oh, there's this practice. I should do this practice. With what, the goal in mind to become enlightened? But that's constantly keeping an outside and an inside here. Sansang in his awakening statement said, no inside, no outside, no in between. So what is Ching looking at here? What is he saying when he says, I almost don't lose myself? But it's because it's in this losing oneself that we remain caught in delusion. It might seem the other way around. In the Monday night class, the non-difference of relative and absolute, we look at these kinds of things. Because you can look at it one way and it seems like, well, this would be enlightenment. No, but you look at it a little again, and this is delusion. This thing here that seems delusion is enlightenment. They seem confused somehow, or we're confused about it, about what is taking place here, about what is being pointed out. So if it is actually enlightenment that interests us, I remember my teacher, Katagiri Roshi, used to tell this story. Well, actually, I only recall him really telling it once. I don't know where it's from, but it takes place in India, I guess, and where everyone was interested in enlightenment. And what they heard about this tree of enlightenment growing somewhere. Nobody knew exactly where it was, but they wanted to find this tree of enlightenment because if you go and sit beneath this tree, perhaps eat of the fruit of this tree or something like that, when you find enlightenment, you become enlightened. Yeah, so everyone was searching high and low, searching everywhere for this tree of enlightenment. But what they all overlooked was, well, where is this tree of enlightenment? And the wise would point out, except they wouldn't quite hear it or digest it or put it into practice of the practice of their searching, whatever. They wouldn't take it into account. The tree of enlightenment, they would say, grows on the mountain of egolessness. Egolessness. But they were searching without abandoning the ego. In fact, they wanted to feed the ego to gain this, maybe for altruistic reasons, but for, wonderful, benevolent reasons, ideas, things, actions they wanted to take that maybe to help others, all of that. But still, seeing it as something out there that I need to acquire, as if there were an outside. And as Ching is saying now in this koan we're looking at, we do that and we we lose ourselves and chase after these things, even enlightenment. Of course, that's not enlightenment. That's our idea of enlightenment. And if we size it up and think, well, that's something pretty good and I want that, yeah, but we have to understand the nature of delusion. This is deluded thinking. Contains greed and separation. I'm coming up short here. There's something very rich out there I want to acquire and get. I just can't quite figure out where it is or what to do about it. This is where we spend all our time. And I'll tell you, and we've told this in our teachings, none of this is necessary. Not only is it not necessary, it gets in the way. These are encumbrances. These are entanglements. This is confusion. And we continuously act out of this sort of confusion. We have to take into account, we run into a teaching that is pointing out the way of awakening here. We can't keep bringing to it our ideas and our desires and our fears. We can't keep bringing to it myself and what I want and what I need. I need something here. I need. Of course, in doing that too, and then maybe after a time and you don't find, then you get angry. You get angry with the teacher. You get angry with the way. I'm going to look for something else, some other way. What we keep overlooking is so simple that we miss it because we're looking for something. And in looking for something, you're putting something there, even though I don't quite know what that is, but I'm searching for that. But we keep imagining it's something over there. We don't just settle down right here. We lose ourselves because it's just right here. We lose, this is what Jing is saying, human beings are inverted, upside down, backwards here. We lose ourselves and chase after things. And so he says, and what about you? He says, I almost don't lose myself. I almost don't lose myself. And, so it's like, so he loses himself. And what is that exactly? But it's like just barely, maybe momentarily, whatever we want there. Because we aren't talking about solid states here. It's either this way or that way. There are things that are like that, but it's not this. It's either this or that. So what are we doing? Basically, it's just simply that we don't pay attention to what is really taking place here before we think, before we tell ourselves about something. We have this direct experience of reality all the time. It's wordless, but we keep putting words in. And then we go wrong with that. And then we'll believe the words, or we'll think it's this and that. And then we change our minds and we're pursuing something else, and then something else again. We have to look at that picture. What are you doing? And we do this continuously. What is taking place here? This enlightenment we might seek, just in the idea that it needs to be sought, is already confusion. And what's sought by you? Me? No. So this is all confusion. So Ching says, I almost don't lose myself. Barely, once in a while. because this confusion and being hooked by it and taken by it is so compelling. Even for Zen Master Cheng, who clearly, based on what we have here, what he's saying, sees this, he sees reality. He sees its nature. He's not confused by it. And yet, I almost don't lose myself. I mean, it's so easy to be taken away. And momentarily, maybe he is taken away. But he can come back. Because actually, he's not even coming back, because we never really leave this place of awakening. This place, this mountain of egolessness. This is what's being lived out. We just don't know that. We keep putting something there. We keep putting the self here, seeing the other out there. It's just our habitual way of seeing, but it isn't reflecting actual experience. This is what we need to wake up to and see. So the student says, yeah, so what about you? He says, well, I almost don't lose myself. And he says, well, what does that mean? What's the meaning of I almost don't lose myself? Because that one you might have to sit with for a few years. I almost don't lose myself. What is he talking about? At least I had to sit with it a few years. What is he talking about? And then Cheng says, well, to express oneself, that's rather easy. To express something out of the ego, out of the self, my idea, my feeling, my theory, my concept, express myself, my fear, my worry, my when I experience something blissful or whatever, yeah, my bliss, whatever. Yeah, we can express ourselves in all sorts of ways. But this matter of truth with a capital T, not my truth, your truth, or Buddha's truth, or truth written in a book. Truth, or reality, capital T, capital R. Dharma with a capital D. Reality. Yeah. Totality. The whole thing. It's not a thing. Yeah. So to express myself, that's rather easy. Usually I can do that. Sometimes I feel at a loss for words, but it's just me. I can't come up with them. Maybe we need to invent a new word for what it is I'm feeling right now. That kind of stuff. Ordinary mind, ordinary thinking. Well, what is this other thing, Rujing? Not Rujing, Ching Cheng. He's saying, in saying I almost don't lose myself. Yeah, well, to express myself, yeah, that would be easy. Yeah, but in losing my sense of myself, which is to actually regain the true self, true mind, to say this would be to say the whole thing, to actually speak enlightened words, to point it out. But he says, this would be rather difficult. He didn't say rather, he said this would be difficult. But really what he's saying is that this is impossible. This cannot be done. This is why the Buddhas do not give us, say the answer, whatever. What is it? As if you need to acquire it to take it or to believe it. This isn't about believing anything. This is about waking up to what is actually taking place. And your beliefs, your ideas, if you're thinking about this, these are all entanglements. This is all confusion. This is all blocking the way. And we'll explore some of this in the Monday night class. on the non-difference of relative and absolute. It's from the Sando Kai, the merging of difference and unity. That particular teaching. But we'll be exploring some of this, what I'm kind of pointing to now. This is kind of tangential to what I'm working on with that class. So, but this matter then of trying to say the whole thing, we'll come to the teacher, then maybe we'll ask a question. Here in this case, the teacher, Jing Ching, he asked the student, what does that sound? Knowing the student, assume there's an outside or an inside and an in-between, some kind of boundary between those two. When in fact, as we look at in the merging of difference and unity, there's no there's no boundary there. It's not even merging. There's non-difference right from this very start. Now, what are you going to say about that? And Ching says, to say the whole thing. See, he can see the whole thing. With awakening, this is what it is. See the whole thing. There's no doubt. There's no room for doubt. There's nothing confused about it. Doubt and confusion, these all occur in the worlds of our thinking, of this and that. I'm trying to figure out, and maybe let's try this and that. But there's always doubt and confusion there. But reality is not like that. It is of a different nature, and it's not inaccessible to you. It is something that is constantly experienced. It would be impossible for it to be otherwise. It's only a matter that we wake up to it. And, we let go of all the various things that we cling to and hold explanations, for ourselves about. The sorts of things that we'll go to the teacher for, hoping that they'll give us an explanation or some little nugget, a catchy phrase or word. But then they can do stuff like that to a certain point. But we need to realize that ultimately, it isn't a matter of holding anything at all. It is just simply a matter of waking up, of seeing. When I say see in this way, I would italicize it if I were writing it out, printing it. Well, maybe I've gone on long enough with this morning. Do you have any questions? Or did you? Yeah. There's a question. If there's a question online, I guess we're fine, right? So. Yes. Oh, yes. Here, you can take this. You can just hold it.
Thank you.
You said that to try to understand truth with a capital T or oneness with a capital O is entangling. But if we can never truly enter into truth, and as we are in a human state of reality, can musing oneself on trying to understand truth with a capital T be a non-detrimental entanglement?
No, it just as entangling as anything else. Because you made a couple of assumptions there that aren't quite right. Well, they're limited. Excuse me. This isn't about learning truth or as if we're somehow outside of truth. This is kind of the whole point. And this is in a class, merging of difference unity. We'll be looking at, I don't know if you're in the class or not, but
Apparently I should be.
oh, yeah. And I'm not trying to make a sales pitch here, but about the class, but it is online and you can get it. But anyway, this isn't a matter of like acquiring enlightenment or getting to truth or something like this. And since that isn't what this is about, You don't need to try to figure anything out here or to explore anything. What,
But if one's action is not intended to figure something out, but simply the pleasure of pondering.
yeah, but you don't even necessarily need to ponder either. It's a matter, I mean, it isn't that thinking and pondering and questioning are bad or anything like that. That's perfectly fine. But we don't need to make the mistake that this will somehow help us to wake up to truth, because it won't. Because anything you pick up there as a response or an answer, it might be functional and useful in all kinds of ways in your life, and that's perfectly fine. But the idea that it's going to answer this big question that we otherwise have, but what is this? What's going on? It won't do. And that's kind of, I would say, all we're talking about here, but that's pretty much everything. Yeah, so it's a non-intellectual thing. This is why we have teachings like Dogen, a great Japanese Zen master, and he said, what I just had it here a minute ago. Oh yeah, cease from practice based on intellectual understanding. This isn't any kind of an intellectual, conceptual achievement of some kind. It's just simply suddenly realizing, and kind of wordlessly, because as Wu Jing says, to say the whole thing here, he says difficult. Well, it's really impossible. We can't speak actual truth with a capital T. It would be nice, except if whatever is spoken in that way is just ordinary stuff again. We've made something in our minds, at least. We've pulled something down into kind of a little nugget here, and we put a label on it. And this is the answer, and this is what you should know. This is what the awakened know. And they don't know anything in this regard. They don't know anything any differently than the rest of us. They can know in a conventional way the world we all live in, and pardon me, the world of this and that, and you and me, and all of this. And it isn't like any of this is wrong or bad or forget this or it's non-existent, or and we don't have to do anything with that other than maybe just take care of things. We can look at things in terms of wholeness, and with this we get a sense of kindness and compassion, perhaps in our actions and our words and things. And that is all fine, because what's beneficial here in that world, this world right here as we're sitting here in this world, is to take those actions that are calming and settling, because you want to settle the mind, and not only your own mind, but the minds of others. So to chase after them, to go after them, to shun them, or to just do anything to cause difficulty for others, or to smear them or something. There's so many things that go on now on the internet and in the news and all of that. And the examples we're getting even from political leaders now on how they would just keep tearing down the next person. And that's really, this is if there is anything that would take us from waking up, it is that sort of thing. So we can act in this world in a way, but don't, it isn't a matter of thinking that that's bad. What it is it's unwholesome. It is not of the whole. It is of the ego. It is of separation, of understanding and fighting, that kind of stuff. We can recognize these things and then see if we can live in a way to kind of minimize that as much as possible. But that in itself isn't going to suddenly help us with awakening. The awakening comes in, and we can see it even in the midst of mayhem, we can still see reality. But waking up to it and realizing what it is we're actually living out, this can occur any time, but to the extent that we can learn to settle the mind, and maybe even to settle the mind of society as a whole, we all stand a better chance just waking up. So, but as an individual, we can work on this in our own life. Not with the idea that this will be a goal and patients better from that sort of thing. Because those are just more grasping ideas. But that is the situation. Just see, as my teacher used to say, just pat your head. But to go a little crazy or get too angry or worked up, just pat your head, settle down. And that's really what's required there in terms of what we have to do. The rest of it is, well, it's nothing more than just pay very careful attention. And we can start to learn to pay careful attention to what we're grasping, to what we're thinking is, well, this is the answer, or this is what I should do. Just you can kind of learn to keep a light grasp, if any grasp at all, onto it, and just see what's going on. So this is all very simple. That's one of the reasons that my teacher used to say that, yeah, this is simple. The problem is that we're complicated. Our minds are complicated. Our thinking, is complicated and that sort of thing. So we make everything appear complicated, but really what's required, and it's really a matter of just gaining sanity, pure sanity, is just to settle out, let go, and see. There is something there to see, and it is reality, and we do see it. So it isn't like see something that you have never seen before. No, that's not. So finally realize what it is you're seeing. This is kind of what it comes down to. Or another way of looking at it, all enlightenment is realizing delusion. Realizing what that is. What is delusion? This is what we can wake up to. And in seeing that, we can kind of learn to not keep stepping in it. That sort of thing. So, yeah. I don't know, did that help you at all? Or okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Anything else? Yes. Oh.
When the teacher said, almost, I don't lose myself, he's talking about just coming back, right, to this moment.
Yeah. Yeah, because the true self, I guess I didn't bring this out too well. If maybe I didn't. I meant to say something like this though, but that the true self, it isn't the ego self. It isn't me. Right. It isn't you. It's just thus. It's just this right here, and it is always thus. Right. Yeah. So this is the true self, but it isn't ego. Right. Because whatever I am, and I have no idea what that word refers to, I really don't. And if you start checking it yourself and keep looking at it, and I've been doing this for many, many decades, and but long ago I finally realized I have no idea what that word is supposed to refer to. And we can, start to live out of this too. And but so it isn't that sort of thing. So then he's talking about I almost don't lose myself. He's talking about losing his realization that what I am, if you have to put something there, is about you, is this floor, this room, others, it is this day, the sunshine, all of this. And this is what we are. But at this point, you don't need to keep putting it, you don't have to turn that now into an object, I or me, because it really won't go into something like that. And to the extent that you do something, you're just confining it, making it small. And also, pretty soon it's going to be set apart from others. And now there's going to be, competition and anger and squabbling. Doesn't always have to be bad. It could be, we get lost in ecstasy or something like this. Later today, Ann and I are going to go to a concert, a world-class pianist, and so maybe we can get launched into ecstasy or something. That's fine, but that's still kind of the ordinary sort of thing. So it doesn't always have to be a nasty thing necessarily, but we can be careful not to totally lose ourselves in the. We don't have to forget awakening. But it's not on the mountain of ego. So, yeah.
Steve, Cindy has a comment or question.
Sure, okay.
Hi, Steve.
Yeah, hi.
So in the koan, when at the very end where the teacher says something like, to express
To express
oneself
oneself, yeah,
is easy,
is easy, yeah.
but to say the whole thing is difficult or
Yeah, he says
impossible.
that has to be difficult, yeah.
So,
And it has to be, in fact, to the point that it is impossible, really, as I was adding on to that. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
well, I don't know if I caught exactly what you were saying, or if I'm uh, putting my own ideas into this. But when he says to express oneself is easy, is that pointing to just to, in any given moment, to just I don't know, just take whatever, to just do whatever is happening in this moment?
No, it's just that most of the time, most of us, we don't find it that difficult to express ourselves and to express our feelings and our thoughts and emotions and all of this. This isn't difficult, you know. So what he's saying, that this is still, we still have this. We don't necessarily lose this, It's still the case that to express, my point of view or something like this is rather easy. We can learn maybe to ease off on all of that, so it doesn't become so like I have to say this, or that isn't particularly helpful, because to that extent we're getting more and more caught up in reifying the actual well, what we're feeling and all of this, making it more real and that sort of thing. So we can go easy on that stuff, but what he's saying is this is not difficult. For most of it, I would say nearly all of us, it's really not that difficult. To express yourself in one way or another. Maybe not even necessarily verbally, but just in the way your posture or the way you're moving, or any number of things. And you will be expressing yourself in these very conventional ways. So, and what he's saying is that this is still the case, but to say the whole thing for the people who have awoken to the actual reality of what is taking place here, what are they going to say? And that he says it's difficult. Well, it's impossible. And it's impossible simply because whatever is said is back down into a little nugget of something. Whether we're speaking of the galaxies or of space, I mean, it could be something huge like this, but that's just an idea, a concept, a thing, a graspable view. Sometimes it can get into murky territory, or it's just sheer fantasy. Well, this person is just crazy, or whatever. Yeah, that could be the case, and maybe they are, and maybe they are referring to something that seems more objective, and that we just haven't seen yet ourselves, that sort of thing. But all of that stuff is taking place. But what he's saying there is that in this world, which isn't different from, or is it different? And here's the difference in of the merging of difference and unity coming into play here. But this isn't different from just our ordinary way of carrying on. And but that's quite different from saying the whole thing. Saying the whole thing because they're seeing the whole thing. Yes, there is seeing the whole thing. Saying the whole thing, of course, if I use something like, well, if you see the whole thing, but of course now the word, in seeing the whole thing, the word you doesn't apply to anything at this point. But if we don't see the whole thing, well, then we say, well, okay, so we can talk that way, but now whatever I say isn't quite right. But in seeing the whole thing, And then this is the reality for us. And if actually you do see the whole thing, we all do. It's just that we keep hanging out with the stuff that we can grasp and label and stuff like that and play around with. But the seeing of the whole thing, and that, so this can involve an actual realization of what is seen. Okay, we can say this is enlightenment, this is awakening. But now to express something from that is impossible because whatever you express is not the whole thing. You see?
Yeah.
So short of that, because believe me, if I could tell you right now the whole thing, nothing would stop me. But reality prevents that. It just simply can't be done. But we can certainly express any number of other things, and rather easily. So that's what he's saying. This isn't difficult to express oneself. This doesn't change, he's saying. You know, careful wording in some of the translations. I'd have to look at it now. In my mind, I can't think of what word it was that's there. Where he's kind of indicating that, yeah, this is something we can do. And we always do it, and it's not that difficult. But that is not the same as saying the whole thing. In the end, the Buddhas are silent. The awakened ones are silent on Dharma. That's why they rely on the Bodhisattva. This is one of the teachings. I wouldn't grasp any of this too tightly, but then the Bodhisattvas, those who still talk. You know, here I am, I'm still talking. As my teachers would say, well, you have to talk, you have to say something. When I was getting to an understanding here where I realized we can't talk about this. And he said, well, you have to. So here we are. But this is in that realm of, well, the ego could be involved with this now and all of that. It's the realm of this and that. And to express what we're feeling now in regards to this thing or that thing, whether it's a wonderful thing or not. But to express oneself has got to be easy. So I have another question here, but is that okay?
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah.
I guess for me, I wanted to say, I think there's different kinds of expression. And so to me, when someone's more in tune with reality, or I might not have the right word for this group, but I think it's expressed non-physically, very subtly with your energy. And you can feel the energy, and that's a kind of expression that's very real. And so I think it is expressed, it's in a subtle, non-physical way. You can't put it into words, but you can kind of feel the vibration of it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, I think I have some sense of what you're trying to say there.
Energy is a kind of energy.
Yeah, but see, in just saying what you're saying, can you see how it's kind of pulling this thing down into and putting it in contrast with other states or other situations or other people or things, and we don't need to go there. I wouldn't build
It
anything.
happens anywhere. To me, I think the expression happens. You can't put it into words, and you can't say what it is.
Yeah.
You can't quantify it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's
Yeah.
beyond that. But
Yeah. So don't say
there's
anything.
an energy.
Yeah.
that I think is
Yeah, but at this
very-
point, there's nothing to say,
No.
and I wouldn't even try to.
Feel it. You feel it. It's not-
Well, yes, I.
You can't quantify it, you can't box it in,
Yeah.
but you can
Mhm.
feel it.
This is
To
why
me, and that
the
feeling
Buddhas
is
remain
very
silent.
powerful.
The Buddhas remain silent about this.
You feel it in the silence.
Yes, but they remain silent because there's nothing to, there's nothing to say. Yeah,
But, yeah, okay.
but what I'm saying is that with saying something, that now comes the fracturedness and the grasping and the contrast and that sort of thing. And that's the ordinary world that we can express ourselves in, and it's fine. But it's it's to lose ourselves, it's to lose awakening, really. Except we can't lose awakening. Anything else? Okay, well, it's nearly the whole hour, so thank you.